Hi everyone, and welcome to module 2 of this course. In module 1 we talked about our introduction to cybersecurity, and I'm sure you enjoyed the module from the feedback I got from my co-facilitator. And in module 2 we want to discuss networking and network security. Alright, so cyber crime, cyber attack usually happens over a network, and a network is the most basic thing that connects computers and other devices together. In fact, if there was no network, there was nothing like a network at all, it would not be possible to carry out major cyber attacks, because after attackers have exploited a system of which they do so over the network, they need that network to probably carry out their loot, to exfiltrate their loot, sensitive data, information and data of interest, and other sensitive things. Alright, so we're going to discuss what a network is. Okay, we're going to discuss how networking works. Alright, and we're also going to discuss major network attacks, that can be carried out over the networks. We won't go too deep into that, but we'll just cover the very basic ones, since this is a very basic course. And then after that, we're also going to discuss how to secure your network, how to prevent breaches from happening in your network. So first off, let's discuss network terminologies. Let's understand the concepts, the ideas behind computer networks. And even if as you can see in this image here, you would see that there are devices. You can see here is a laptop, is a mobile device, is a network device. Alright, you have desktops around, then you probably have the master server here, which is this tall device, this very tall device here. Although this might not really be what they look like, but this is just trying to give a conceptual overview of how networking works. You can see something like light pathways connecting the devices together. So that's how a network works. It connects multiple devices together so they can communicate, so they can share resources, they can access resources. So to start with, what is a computer network? Let's see this definition from Wikipedia. A computer network is a group of computers that use a set of common communication protocols over digital connections for the purpose of sharing resources located on or provided by the network nodes. I'll take that again. A computer network is a group of computers. There's no network without computers, alright? A group of computers that use a set of common communication protocols over digital interconnections for the purpose of sharing resources located on or provided by the network nodes. So let's deep dive into that. I'll give an example. Let's say we're in a conference, alright? We're in a hall, we have people in the hall, and then we have people that speak Spanish. Okay, now the host would like to communicate to the guest of honor to come and take his place on the podium, and he speaks Spanish. Alright, now everybody heard what the host said, but the guest of honor knows that information was for him, probably. Alright, so he gets up, takes his things, probably his bag, his laptop or his tablet, and then he walks towards the podium and takes his place, and probably everybody claps for him, and that's just like acknowledging that they got the information and they recognize who is being called upon. Okay, so that's just the way a computer network works. Someone is trying to communicate to someone, so it does not have a direct path to the destination recipients. Alright, does not have the correct path to the destination address, so he tries to ask people, or probably he sends a message to everyone. If you are ABC, I need to talk to you, I need to send something to you, and then ABC will acknowledge that, oh, I'm here. And then the sender will be like, okay, hi ABC, take this file, it's meant for you. And that's just how it works. Then ABC acknowledges that he has received whatever file was meant to be sent. Okay, so that is basically how a computer network works. It happens over digital interconnections. Okay, it can be wired, it can be wireless, or it can be over other media, and it's for the purpose of sharing resources. Okay, and not just sharing resources, also for communicating, also for accessing resources. Without a network, you cannot access certain resources. All right. So let's see the second definition from Webopedia. A computer network is a group of two or more computers linked together. So you can see here that as soon as you have two computers communicating with each other, you already have a network functioning. So this is basically what a computer network is. This is basically how computer networking works. So let's see types of computer networks. There are various types of computer networks that are actually much more than this. I've just put the very basic ones so that we can relate with what it is. The idea here is not to confuse anyone, but just to let us know, let us have a basic understanding of these concepts, so that when we get to phases where we can apply or work with the more advanced concepts, it won't be something we can't relate with, but you can apply knowledge of the basic concepts. Okay, so let's go. A personal area network, or what you call a PAN, is what we call a one-man network. All right. So an example of a PAN is something like your computer, your computer hotspot. It's possible to create a hotspot with your computer using software like Connectify. All right. It's been long since I used that though, and most of us, probably all of us that use smartphones, we are able to create mobile hotspots from the convenience of our smartphone. So you create a network and other people connect to the network, and you notice that everyone who connects to the network is able to either access the internet or probably connect with each other. All right. So that's what a personal area network is. It's just a one-man network. It belongs to someone. It's not meant to be shared except the owner decides to share, or except you have explicit permission from the owner to connect. And even nowadays we have hotspots where you can limit the amount of people that are trying to connect, because people can be rogue, especially when your hotspot doesn't have a password. Anybody can just connect and just download the way. So what you can do is to probably set a password on your hotspot, and also you can permit whoever you want to connect to your personal area network by adding his MAC address to the allowed list. Okay, later in this course we'll talk about MAC addresses and what it's all about. So we have also what we call a local area network, or what we call a LAN. So it's groups of computers across short distances. Okay, distance is not usually so much. It's usually within a building. Okay, so LAN is common probably in companies. Also at home you can have a local area network. Okay, depending on the number of people that are connecting. Okay, and depending on where you are tapping your network from. All right. So a LAN is common in what you have in offices. You have computers connected to probably a switch using a LAN cable, or you also have computers, maybe laptops, connected to the local network by wireless means. All right. So once the distance gets longer, it's no longer a LAN. All right. But once it's within a building, you have it as a local area network. Next, we'll discuss wireless local area network, what we call WLAN. So wireless local area network is just a LAN, but it's wireless. It doesn't use wired connections. All right, just uses what we call Wi-Fi, mostly Wi-Fi. Okay, now Wi-Fi is just an extension of a switch, kind of an extension, and just provides a more convenient means of hosts connecting to the network, and it also allows for mobility. So for example, if I have a desktop and I'm connected to a wired network, okay, with a cable, I'm not able to carry that desktop around, and I'm not able to be mobile. So probably I need to talk to someone about something and he needs to see it on my screen. I have to invite him over. But if I have a laptop, I can easily unplug my charger and just take the laptop to wherever it is I want to show, what it is I want to show. All right. Next up, we have campus area network. You can call it a CAN if you want. So what this does is it connects several buildings. Okay, connects several buildings to the same network. So these buildings are connected to a common network, and this is an example of networks you find in campuses or campus areas. All right, so a campus is just an area where you have different buildings that serve a common good. All right, so take for example, in a campus like a university, you can have the administrative building, you can have the lecture building, you can have the cafeteria, you can have a lecture hall, you can have the hostels. All right, now these buildings have people with devices like laptops and desktops or mobile devices, and they need to be connected locally. Okay, so just have a means of connecting all these buildings together such that they can access the same resources. All right, so the difference between a LAN and a CAN, a campus area network, is that a campus area network spans longer distances. Okay, so also in places like probably Microsoft, Apple, Google, that have more than one or two buildings, they actually have a whole area dedicated for their office space. Okay, now this type of network that connects the buildings together such that they can access common resources without any form of interference. So next up, we have the metropolitan area network. Okay, so metropolitan area network spans a town or a city. So just consider someone like Lagos. Okay, or take for example a base station that covers the whole of Lagos. Okay, as an example of a metropolitan area network. A wide area network, an example is the internet. So wide area network is very wide, okay, very much longer distances, countries, cities, continents. Okay, if I connect to the internet, I can connect to a server that is located in perhaps Saudi Arabia or in the United States, anywhere in the world. So far that server is connected to the internet also. You can do that via remote desktop protocol, TeamViewer, or Zoom. I also use Cisco WebEx and also use Citrix. Citrix GoToMeeting. Alright, so that's an example of a wide area network. Now let's see for a storage area network. Storage area network is a standalone network for storage devices. Okay, so the idea behind a storage area network is this: we could have many servers and then have hard disks connected to these servers. Okay, now what if we want to have a common storage for all our servers such that we can remove and replace faulty hard disks without having to shut down each server? Okay, that's the reason for a storage area network. So it usually consists of a rack connected to the network, a local network, and so that rack is connected to a cluster of servers. Okay, so because of that interconnection between the cluster of servers and the rack of hard disks, there's a network formed. All right, so you can easily take out a hard disk and replace it without having any form of downtime. That's that for a storage area network. It's very robust. It's a very cool solution for organizations that have data centers. And then here we have what we call a virtual private network. I'll give you an example now. If I'm in my office building, I'm able to access the file server in my office, all right? But what if I'm at home and I need to access that file server? I really need to probably drive down to the office and then connect my system to the network and have access to the file server. But a virtual private network allows you to connect to that local internal network in your office from anywhere in the world. So what it does is it creates a tunnel between you and the organization's external border device like a router or a firewall. All right. Now, when there's a connection between you and the router, you can easily access the file server as if you are in the office. Okay, because there's a tunnel between both of you and the tunnel is encrypted. So whatever data sent is sent safely. All right. Although there might be a little lag due to latency, but the concept works, and it's a very cool concept because it allows for flexibility in working. Okay, allows your work to be location independent. So that's that for types of computer networks, and I believe we are now acquainted with the types of networks that we have. This is just basic, like I said earlier. There are much more than this, but this is just basic concepts. So now let's go to IP address and ports. I'll use an example for IP address and ports. So let's assume I'm a delivery man and I need to deliver a pair of shoes to someone in a particular street. All right. Now on that street, there are houses, and the houses have different numbers. All right. And I need to locate the particular house where the intended recipient of my package is located. All right. Now, what I need to do, I first need to know the number of his house on the street. Okay. And after knowing that, I need to know which particular block of flats belongs to him. So that is the way an IP address works. The number there is the IP address, while the particular block of flat or the door to his flat is his port. So IP addresses are used to locate individuals on a network. Okay, it actually locates devices on the network and indirectly locates individuals on the network. Okay, so ports are just means of transferring data. Okay, IP addresses are usually 32 bits in length, divided into 4 parts. So back to my example where you have a street, and then you have houses, you have house numbers, you have flat number, okay, and doorways through the flats. So the street is like a network. The houses are like the devices connected to the network. the number of the houses are like the IP address of the devices connected to the network, and then the flat number, or probably the door number, the doorway to the flat is the port number of a particular device on the network. Okay, so IP addresses are 32 bits in length. So just look at this example where you have IP address, the image here, you have 192.168.0.1. All right, so these are 4 octets. You convert them to binary, you have 8 bits for every octet. All right, that's why an IP address is 32 bits in length. I said earlier, it's used to identify devices on the network. Okay, so if I have the IP address of a particular device on the network, I can communicate with that device. If I don't have the IP address, I have to look for it, or probably I have to use another means, maybe like DNS, which I'll explain later in this course, to resolve the host name to the IP address and start communicating with that particular host. No device communicates without an IP address. So even if you are a device and you don't have an IP address assigned to you, the computer gives what we call an autoconfig IP address. All right. Though with that, you can't really communicate with others on the network, but probably you can communicate with your own self. So like I said earlier, ports are gateways for data transfer, and ports are standardized, meaning they are standard for the types of ports you can use to transmit different types of data. We'll go into that as we delve deeper into this course. Okay, so now we have here on the right an IP address, and then you have a port. So 192.168.0.1, and you have colon 80. So this is what you use to access a web server normally. Although for standard ports, you may not have to specify the port number, but for non-standard ports, you will have to specify the port number. So for HTTP, you have port 80. For HTTPS, you have port 443. All right. And if I just put HTTPS in front of this IP address, it just takes me straight to the HTTPS version of the site. All right. And sometimes you can host standard protocols over non-standard ports. It's very possible to do that, but then you would have to specify the port number. So I can host HTTP over port 40. That is if 40 is not already assigned as a standard port. But then if I want to access that site, I'll have to specify port 40. Okay. Then also I can host HTTPS over any other port that is not a standard port. We'll discuss standard ports later in this course. Well, if I do that, I would have to specify the port, because I don't only need to identify the device on the network, I also need to identify a particular gateway where we can communicate and transmit data. All right. Let's go now to classes of IP address. So if you look closely, you'll see that there are 3 classes. There are already 5 classes of IP addresses, all right? But just for basic knowledge, I have put 3 here so we don't get confused. Okay. So now for class A, the first 8 bits are reserved for the network, all right, and the rest 24 bits are reserved for the hosts. Okay. And for class B network, you have the first 16 bits are reserved for the network address, and then the rest 16 bits are reserved for the host. Okay, so what this means is that you use the reserved bits to know the network, then the hosts can have identifiers toggled within the range of the bits of the host network given. All right. For class C, you have the first 3 portions, or the first 24 bits reserved for the network, while the last 8 bits reserved for the host. So that said, class C will take the least number of hosts on a network. All right. So and class A would take the most number of hosts on a network. All right, because there are more bits assigned for host addressing. Okay, so start with, if you want to find the class of an IP address, you need to look at the first octet. Okay, so now if you look at class A starts, the network address is usually from 1 to 7. All right, for class B it is 128 to 192. Okay, for class C is 192 to 223. Okay, now I've just put the most basic things about it. It's actually much deeper than this. All right, but this is just to give you a concept for you to know. Let's move to the next slide. So now let's go to public and private IP addresses. So for a private IP address is reserved for local use, just within a network, within a local network. Okay, while private IP addresses are routable over the internet. So I'll give you an example. If I'm here in my office, I'm able to access resources like servers, I'm able to communicate with people. That's because I am in the same network with them and I use addresses that are reserved for private use. Okay, these things are already standardized in IT systems. But if I want to access the network, probably I need to get myself a public IP address. Now, because IP addresses are quite limited, what organizations do is to purchase what is called a proxy server. A proxy server has its own IP address, all right? So even if you have up to 1 million hosts in a private network, if they want to access the internet, they forward their request to the proxy server. Okay, now the proxy server forwards the request over the internet to the destined location and then receives the response and forwards it to the host that sends the request. All right, so this just draws us back to the concept I was trying to explain about using a virtual private network. So if I'm using a virtual private network, I have a public IP address because probably I'm connected to my modem or my hotspot. So I have a public IP address. I can access the internet. All right. Now I need to access a file server that is located inside the network. The file server has a private IP address. Now private and public IP addresses cannot communicate with each other. All right. A private IP address needs to find a public IP to be able to communicate with a public IP address. So now, because I am at home and I have a public IP address, I can access the internet. I can access the border device, which is the router or the firewall. Okay, so and these are the two devices where you can create virtual private networks. So now, when I'm created on the firewall on the router to have VPN access, there's a connection between my modem, a logical connection I can't see between my modem and the router or the firewall. Now, because of this connection, I can send data through the firewall to a particular server in-house that has a private IP address. And when I'm connected via a VPN, a virtual private network, I'm giving a private IP address in the range of private IP addresses that are behind the firewall or the router. So it looks as if I am on the network, but I'm actually not. I'm at home, but there is a logical connection that gives me private access. All right. So excluding private IP addresses, all IP addresses of class A, B, and C are public IP addresses. So let's go now to network protocols. So what are protocols? before we let's take the definition first, and then I would elaborate further on what a protocol is truly. So, a communication protocol is a system of rules that allow two or more entities of a communication system to transmit information via any kind of variation of a physical quantity. The protocol defines the rules, the syntax, the semantics, and synchronization of communication and possible error recovery methods. Okay, so for example, I would like to send a package to someone in another state of the country, and then we agree that we are going to use DHL, or probably we're going to use FedEx. So the recipient of the intended recipient of the package is expecting to see a FedEx truck pull up close to his house, and a FedEx delivery man walk up to him, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, are you Mr. ABC?" And he says, "Yes." Say, "I have this package for you from Mr. DEF, all right?" And he says, "Yes, I'm expecting a package from Mr. DEF." And he says, "Okay, good. You're Mr. ABC, but I need you to prove you're Mr. ABC. Can you sign here for me?" Then he signs, and he says, "Can I see your ID card to confirm you are who you say you are?" And he brings up probably his driver's license, or his international passport, or probably a voter's card, or any other government issued identity card. Okay. Then the delivery man says, "Oh, that's fine. You are who you say you are. You can have your package. Just sign up for me, and I'll head back." Then when the transaction is complete, the recipient takes his package, enters his house, while the FedEx man enters his truck and drives away. Okay, and the recipient can, in addition, call the sender and say, "Hey, I just met with the FedEx man now and have gotten my package. Thank you very much." Then the sender says, "You are welcome." And also, FedEx system is built, or most logistics companies, their systems are built such a way that when a delivery is made, or probably as soon as a delivery is made, an acknowledgement is sent to the sender of the package to inform him that his package was successfully delivered to the intended recipient. So this is how network protocols work. There are different types of data to be exchanged. Okay, so they need to agree on, just like Wikipedia says, the rules. What rules are we going to follow? The syntax, how are we going to present the information? Semantics, synchronization, all right? How are we going to send? Okay, and possible error recovery methods. If there's a problem in sending this data to you, there's a problem for you receiving this message, how do we ensure that it's sent again such that you receive it? Okay, so this is how network protocols work. Network protocols are the drivers for communication across a network. They are also facilitators of communication across a network. All right, so this basically is what a network protocol is, and is basically how network protocols work. So now let's see the different types of protocols. You have HTTP, which uses port 80, as I already mentioned the previous slide. You have HTTP over port 80. It's for web browsing. Okay, so if you open your browser and you type HTTP : and // and you put in a domain name like probably example.com, all right, and you're able to access the site, you are transferring data to port 80 of the server. All right, it's not the client side port 80, but the server side port 80. Okay, so port 80, yes, which is HTTP, has a particular drawback. in that it is not encrypted, and as such, anybody accessing sensitive information that is hosted over port 80 can stand the risk of his data being sniffed from another attacker that is connected to the network running sniffing software. All right, and as a result, sensitive data can be compromised, can be stolen and used for other malicious means. Okay. Next, we have what we call FTP, what we call File Transfer Protocol, and it's hosted over port 21. All right. Purpose of this protocol is to share files, okay, to transfer files. All right. Then next up we have SSH, which we call, okay, before we go to SSH, let's go to Telnet, which is just below SSH. Telnet is hosted over port 23. So Telnet is used to administer servers, used to connect to servers using command line, okay, and used to administer servers using command line. But the drawback of Telnet also is that it's not encrypted, so data is sent and received in clear text. Okay, there's no form of scrambling of sensitive information, and as such, a malicious hacker connected to the network can easily sniff these details. Okay, so let's now go back to SSH. The SSH here uses port 22. SSH can be used for Linux and also used for Windows systems, alright. But the thing about SSH is that it is encrypted. It's just like Telnet with encryption, alright. And if you notice, if you are conversant with SSH, you'll notice that when you try to log in using SSH, you can't even see your password when you're typing it in. Okay, so SSH is quite secure and protects against sniffing attacks over the network. So next we have SMTP. SMTP uses port 25 and it's called, okay, SSH means secure shell, all right? So SMTP means simple mail transfer protocol. So it's used to transfer emails from source to destination mailbox, and then can also transfer email from destination to source. All right. So that's what SMTP is used for basically. So if I send an email, it goes to my SMTP server. All right. Can be Google, can be Microsoft Office 365, and then it goes to the recipient's SMTP server, and then it's transferred to the recipient's mailbox. Then we have DNS. DNS is called Domain Name Service. All right. DNS runs over port 53 and is used to resolve domain names to IP addresses. So take for example, I want to connect to facebook.com. The internet doesn't really understand domain names, it understands IP addresses. So what my machine would do would be to connect to a DNS server and say, hey, I have this host name and I would like to find the IP address for this host name. So if there's a DNS server that has that particular record that matches the host name to the IP address, it says, okay, I have the host name in my record, so this is the IP address. But if not, if it doesn't have, because DNS servers are interconnected, it keeps asking other DNS servers, do you have this host name in your record? And if you do, please provide me the IP address. So it keeps going on and on and on until a match is found in a particular DNS server record. All right. So with that, you can connect over the internet. Now, there's also something called reverse DNS. So for reverse DNS, it's maps IP addresses to domain names. Okay, can use to find domain names of IP addresses just in case there's a mix up somewhere and you would like to verify. Now there's what you call POP3. POP3 means Post Office Protocol version 3. So back in the days of the post office, if I had a letter in the mail, I would be called to come and pick it up. So I drive down to the post office, I pick up my letter, I go back home, I read my letter. So it's just the same concept. It will retrieve the email from the mailbox, all right, and then to send it down to the client's mailbox. So the 3 there means version 3, all right. So it runs over port 110. Okay, now we have what we call HTTPS. HTTPS is just HTTP that has encryption, just the same way you have Telnet and you have SSH. So you have HTTP and then you have HTTPS. The S in HTTPS stands for secure, and it runs on a standard port number 443. All right, it's just like communicating over the internet, and you don't give sniffers a chance to probably see what you're doing. Don't give them a chance to sniff your credentials, sniff sensitive data, because it's already encrypted, because it's already scrambled and no one can see it. All right. Next we have IMAP. IMAP runs over port 143. So what it does is that it retrieves email from the server and it doesn't delete the email. Just is another form of post office protocol. All right. And then last on the list we have what is called SNMP. Okay, SNMP means Simple Network Management Protocol. All right. It is used to manage network devices like routers, switches, firewalls, all right, and it operates over port 161 and port 162. All right. Let's go on to the next slide now. Now, this we are actually about to delve into is the foundation of computer networks. All right. We're about to understand how communication across the network works, several layers that data passes through and changes before it gets to a recipient. Okay, so we go to what we call the OSI layer. OSI means Open Systems Interconnection Model. All right, it's also actually called the OSI model. It's a conceptual model that characterizes and standardizes the communication functions of telecommunication or computing system without regards to its underlying internal structure and technology. Okay, so it is independent of internal structure and technology. This is what Wikipedia says. So it standardizes communication, all right, and it's saying across board. Okay, so this is just a basic framework of how networking works. It's just a very basic framework, and we'll delve into that shortly. So the OSI actually has 7 layers, all right, and data passes through these 7 layers. Okay, first from layer 1 to layer 7. No, sorry, from layer 7. Excuse me, I think I mixed up something there. From layer 1 to layer 7, and then from layer 7 to layer 1. All right, so this is how it goes. First goes through physical, then to the data link, then to the network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, then the application layer. All right. Then when it gets to the recipient, it then goes through the application down to presentation to session, transport, network, and data link. All right. So let's start first. The physical layer. Physical layer. So this is more of connecting maybe a LAN cable to your computer. All right. So it converts digital data so it can be sent over physical medium. Okay, and it moves data between hosts. So the physical layer is nothing more of probably your Ethernet ports and the technologies that surround it. Ethernet port is the port where you plug in your LAN cable. All right. And then again, you have the data link layer, provides media access, and then physical addressing. This is where you have your MAC address. So the MAC address is the address of the device locally, not in a network. All right. So a device can have a physical address, which is the MAC address, and also a network address, which is the IP address. Okay. Then you have the network layer. Network layer provides logical addressing, where you have IP addressing, and also provides path determination using logical addressing. So it determines the path to the host, all right? Predetermines paths where the data should pass through before it gets to the host, and usually uses the shortest possible path, shortest possible route to get to the host. Okay. Then also we have the transport layer. Transport layer provides end-to-end connections. All right. Provides reliable or unreliable delivery and flow control. All right. Tries to ensure that data has been sent correctly and ensures that the receiver has received data correctly. So next you have session layer, maintains distinction between data of separate applications, all right? Provides dialog control between the hosts. So let me explain what a session is. If I'm trying to communicate with a particular host on the network, a session is established. If I mistakenly get cut off, session ends. Okay, so I have to reinitiate the session with the receiving party. All right. Then next we have the presentation layer. It just handles how data is presented. Okay, handles encryption and decryption, handles formatting of data. All right. Then you have the application layer, provides a user interface so that the internet recipient can understand what is being sent in human readable format. So most of these concepts may actually seem boring, but these are actually the methodologies, the mechanisms behind how computer networks work, and most network attacks take place over these different layers. Okay, take place over these different layers. So it's up to IT professionals, network security professionals to know how to secure data across the 7 OSI layers. We go to the next slide. So let's now see network devices and their benefits. So network devices facilitate the functioning of a computer network. There are different devices with different functions, all right? And without these devices, not like though networking will not be possible, it might be possible, but to be quite complex and quite difficult. So there are specific devices with specific purposes to ensure that the network functions as intended and data is transferred without any issues. All right. So let's deep dive down. Let's go. What do we have here? We have a hub. A hub is not intelligent at all, and it's the simplest network device. Okay. So if you look at this image we have here, you would see how many ports we have here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the 8-port hub. I'm sure you're wondering why I didn't count this last port rather. So this port, a hub is used to extend the network, alright? So I can connect this hub to a switch using a LAN cable. Then I can connect 8 other computers to these 8 vacant ports. Okay, now I can decide to just create, or rather connect the computers together, or I can decide to connect them together and then connect them to another network as a means of extending the network. Okay, so probably if there's just one port left on the switch, I can extend that port to 8 ports using this hub. And then also you have hubs with a larger number of ports. With more number of ports, you can connect 32, if I'm correct, 32 more computers, there about 18, 24, and so on. All right. So one thing about the hub is that whatever data that is sent to one computer is actually sent to all the computers. All right. So if a particular data or information, a particular communication is meant for the third computer on the network, the hub sends the information to all 8 computers, and so the computers have to respond by saying, "Oh, the address there isn't for me," so it drops the connection. But when a computer sees that the address in the communication matches its own IP address, it accepts the data. All right. And also, I said here, a hub can handle both analog and digital data. So a hub, like I said earlier, not intelligent. It's just like a forwarder, just like a repeater. All right, just takes that signal, amplifies it, and sends it to all other hosts on the network. And of course, this can cause congestion on the network because you are sending more data than is necessary. All right, and if you have hosts that are competing with resources, it might lead to some form of downtime for them. All right, so let's see another device. This is a switch. Yeah, and there you see what's called a switch. How many ports are on the switch? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's another 12. So this is a 24-port switch. Okay. Each port can be connected to a simple computer, or you can actually extend this by connecting another switch to this switch if you have more than 24 computers on the network. Okay, so a switch is more intelligent than hubs because it can actually determine the right recipient for a particular message and forward the message to only that particular recipient instead of broadcasting the message to all computers on the network. Okay, so that is why a switch is more intelligent than hubs, because a hub is more of should I use the word manual or mechanical? Just does one function: amplify the signal, send to everybody. Amplify the signal, send to everybody. Amplify the signal, send to everybody. But you give the message to a switch, and the switch says, it actually checks the MAC address in the network and says, okay, who owns this MAC address? All right. When it has found the correct owner of the MAC address, it forwards the message to only that particular computer with that particular MAC address. That's virtual circuit, and this virtual circuit is used for sending data to probably the right recipients. Okay, it also improves network efficiency in the sense that it doesn't send more data than necessary. It only sends data to the correct and intended recipients. All right. So I'm happy for whoever invented this switch. It just made life a whole lot easier. If not, network teams will have to deal with a lot of congestion, a lot of downtime, and a lot of slowed or bad performance in the network. If you look closely, you see what's called a router. So a router is also more intelligent than switches. All right, and it has knowledge about networks that they are connected to. So what a router does is, just like the name implies, it routes packets. Okay, so it creates routes or determines routes to external networks. All right, and I'll give you an example. A router is usually a border or a perimeter device. By border or perimeter device, what I mean is it's located at the edge of the network. So for any communication that is destined for an external network, it hits the router last. All right. So the router determines how to send it to the external host on the internet. Okay. So once the router knows that part, it stores that part and uses that for further transmission of data. So like I said earlier, it operates at a network border and it can communicate with external networks. A router can also be used to divide the network. What I mean is, can use to segment the network, can be used to divide the network such that you say, okay, let this department be on this portion of the network, let the sales department be on portion A of the network, and then it gives them their IP address range. Let the engineering department be on the second portion of the network and it gives them their own IP address range. Let the technical department of the network be on this portion of the network and it gives them their IP address range. Purpose of that is so that sales staff in the sales team are not able to access resources in the engineering network. Okay, in cybersecurity, it's called need to know. So you should only have access to resources that you need for your job function. All right, anything outside that is not permitted. So they operate at the network border and can communicate with external networks. They can be used to divide the network, and they also provide a first line of defense. Now, what I mean is this by first line of defense. Routers have what we call an access control list, or it's called ACL. All right. Now, in that ACL, they have what is called an allow list and a block list. So if you've explicitly blocked an IP address, probably because a device with that IP was carrying out malicious attacks, okay, over the network on your infrastructure, and you decide to blacklist the IP, okay, the router can detect that and deny that particular IP address access to the network. So that's why your router is a first line of defense. But in some cases, you have the firewall as a first line of defense, because you can have a firewall with routing capabilities. Next up, we have an access point. An access point is just simply an extension of the wired network. All right? An access point is what provides you with Wi-Fi connection. It's just used to provide connection for mobile devices. Okay, phones, mobile phones, laptops, tablets. Okay, so it's usually connected to probably somewhere around the switch, such that it gives wireless access. It has a transmitter and receiver to create wireless LANs, right? It can also provide connection between wireless network and wired LAN, all right? And it's limited by transmission range. That's the reason why when you step outside a particular range, you notice you can no longer see the wireless network. That's because you're outside the range, and depends on the level of the signal configured by the administrator. All right. So access points are usually encrypted, as if you're not using web. You use a WPA. We'll discuss that later in this course, but they're usually encrypted so that if a malicious attacker is connected to the same network as you are, he cannot be able to snoop on your communications and sniff your credentials. Next here we have what is called a modem. A modem is used to transmit data over a telephone line. So modems have actually evolved, okay, over 2G, 3G, 4G. Now we're talking about 5G. Okay, if you look at the picture I have down there, you would see an MTN modem and a Etisalat modem. Okay, now it's just like I said, it's used to transmit data over a telephone line. That's why they always have a SIM card in them. Okay, before now they actually connected actual telephone lines to the computers to facilitate connection to the internet. All right, but now we can use any device that has a SIM card. So for example, you can use a MiFi, you can use your phone as a modem, you can use a USB stick with SIM card in it as a modem. All right, so it just uses that telephone line to grant you access to the internet via the internet service provider. So the full meaning of a modem is modulator demodulator. Okay, it's digital to analog conversion for another modem somewhere to receive. So it converts your digital signals to analog signals and vice versa. Okay, just to facilitate communications. Modems are usually handy. You can have them in your bag, have them in your pockets, and just a way of carrying the internet everywhere you go. Coincidence. So let's look at the last aspect of this course. We're going to discuss how to secure a network. We're going to discuss common network attacks. Okay, so in the previous two modules, what we discussed was how network works, the basic concept of a network, okay, the terminologies, the basics, and I tell you, I kid you not, these are very basic concepts. Okay, so if you want to know more, you can probably take the CCNA routing and switching certification, or you can take the CompTIA Network Plus certification, or you can go to YouTube and watch videos for free on networking. There are a host of videos on networking. You can just go, watch some just to satisfy your curiosity. Okay, so we'll discuss all that now. We are entering the security part of it. Remember, I said that networks are fundamental building blocks of digital infrastructure. Without a network, no attacks. But without a network also, infrastructure cannot function, your organization cannot be profitable, especially if your organization's revenue model is digitally inclined. So let's look at network security mechanisms. So first we have network address translation. Now I'm going to explain something. Remember I said that available public IP addresses today are quite limited in number. So you have situations where an organization can have only one IP address, only one public IP address for over 10,000, 20,000, even a million staff to use. So it's the proxy server that has the IP address, okay? and it forwards requests on behalf of hosts that want to access the internet. Now, the thing is, if each host has a public IP address, it will be very easy to attack the hosts because they can be reached directly over the internet. So if I know your public IP address and it is configured for your computer, your laptop, or your desktop, and you have a public IP address that is reachable over the internet, it means I can interact directly with you over the internet. All right. So if you are running a vulnerable system, I can exploit it and attack you. But since you have devices behind a proxy server, okay, or probably even behind a firewall, all right, and the firewall is forwarding requests on behalf of hosts that are internal, and the firewall is only on the public IP address. So what it means is that an external host cannot directly reach internal hosts, okay, because there is only one public address and not 10,000 public addresses, okay. So even if it wants to reach it, the proxy server or the firewall has to relay the message. All right. So NAT stands for network address translation. Okay. So NAT is the process of translating a private IP to a public IP. All right. Just because that private IP needs to communicate over the external network. All right. So that's what NAT is basically about. So it protects the internal host by not making them directly accessible. All right. And it just allows the use of probably one or a few public IP addresses. Okay. Another security mechanism we have here is called segmentation. Like I explained earlier, segmentation is a means of dividing the network such that a host on one portion of the network cannot access resources on another area of the network. And it also divides the network such that if one portion of the network is compromised, the compromised host can also not reach other portions of the network. So it contains compromise to only the portion of the network that has been compromised. All right. Segmentation is also a form of access control. Prevents hosts on one portion of the network from accessing resources, sensitive or insensitive, classified or unclassified, that are resident on another portion of the network, and also that is not useful for hosts on another portion of the network. Okay, so there's no use for someone in the sales department on the sales network accessing resources like maybe applications used by the engineering department on the engineering network. Okay, there's no need for all that, and there's no need for those in the engineering department to have access to applications, resources, file servers, and hosts on the finance portion of the network. Okay. Now, if you allow everybody to have access to everything, or if you have what is called a flat network without any form of segmentation, it's usually very risky because you never can tell who is tech savvy, never can tell who has malicious intent, never can tell the intentions that people have in their minds, in their hearts. All right. So, reason why I need to segment the network and divide it accordingly. It's just a logical division of the network such that a host on one area of the network cannot access resources or reach out to hosts on another area of the network. VLAN, what you call virtual LAN, is a form of segmentation. It divides the networks into several LANs. All right, they are logically divided. Okay, and they can't communicate with each other. Talking about different portions of the network, different hosts on different portions of the network cannot communicate with each other. Again, here we have what is called a proxy. Already discussed what a proxy is. It forwards requests on behalf of internal hosts. But also, another thing a proxy does is that it can prevent users from accessing external resources that are deemed malicious. So if someone wants to access a site that is classified as malicious, a proxy will prevent it. All right, and proxy can also be used to improve performance. If you are constantly requesting a version of a site, the proxy caches that 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 site, so that when you request for it again, it serves you a local version instead of an external version. Okay, so this is how proxy works. Again, we have a firewall. So a firewall is a core network security device. In fact, I don't see any organization that can survive without having a firewall. Firewall can be used both internally and externally. Firewall can be used to enforce access control, can be used to enforce need to know. All right. So the firewall has rules that dictates which hosts can access which resources on the network. All right. And it can permit specific IP addresses and ports to communicate with specific IP addresses and ports. And when you're configuring a firewall, you should never have a generic rule set on your firewall. You should have specific rules, all right? And at the end of all your firewall rules, you have a rule called deny any, which means implicit deny. And what this means is that any rule, any connection that does not match any rule that has been set before this deny any should be blocked. All right. So with that, it helps you to tighten your network and to ensure that only those that have access to specific resources are granted access to those resources. All right. On the external side, a firewall can be used to block malicious hosts. All right. Just the same way it does. It can also do that on the inside too. On the outside, it can be used to block malicious hosts. And you have ACLs, routers. Routers function like firewalls too, in the sense that they can block and permit IP addresses, okay, and can permit hosts to reach specific areas of the network. But the access control list helps to do that, okay. You can also have firewalls with routing capabilities. So you have a firewall and a router in one device, all right. Next, we have encryption. Encryption ensures that anything that is sent over the network is scrambled and the original meaning is not disclosed to unauthorized recipients. Okay, because anything on the network, especially a wireless network, can be received by anybody, but you need to ensure that only those that have access, only those that are the authorized intended recipients, are the only ones that can decrypt the information and gain meaningful sense out of it. So encryption is very useful, just like in HTTPS, okay, and also internally you can enable encryption, and also using a wireless access point you can enable encryption, just to ensure that snooping is not allowed, just to ensure that malicious hosts do not have access to sniff the network. Next, we have HIDS and NIDS. Okay, so HIDS stands for Host Intrusion Detection System. NIDS stands for Network Intrusion Detection System. Now, something about intrusion detection systems is that they detect when a malicious attack is ongoing, and depending on their configuration, they can respond or not respond. So we have an IDS, we have an IPS. IDS is intrusion detection system, while IPS is intrusion prevention system. An IDS will only detect and alert you, okay? But an IPS will detect and also prevent that attack by responding due to pre-configured rules, all right? Now, IDS uses signatures, meaning it already knows signatures of attacks. It knows behaviors of common attacks like brute force, or exploiting a vulnerable system. All right. So when it sees the signatures, when the signature matches the signature that is in the database, it alerts or it prevents, okay, by blocking the IP address, okay. So host intrusion detection system detects intrusion on the host system, while network intrusion detection system detects intrusions that happen on the network, okay. So HIDS can detect probably a malware trying to encrypt a portion of the hard drive. Ransomware can detect and alert you, but the HIPS will detect and prevent it. While NIDS can detect things like brute force, things like exploitation, and so on. So let's now go to honeypots. What's a honeypot? A honeypot is just a means to deceive attackers and to learn what their motives actually are. So what a honeypot does is that it simulates your network on a different portion of the network, alright? So the attacker thinks he's actually attacking your network, meanwhile, he's attacking a fake network. So by looking at what the attacker is doing, by looking at the signatures of what the attacker is doing, you can learn what his intent is. So when you see that he's after the file server and he's trying by brute forcing, what you do, you go and enforce password security, use a strong password, use multi-factor authentication, and ensure that passwords expire, okay, to limit the compromise time for the password, all right? So that's what honeypots does. I've spoken about encryption. Let's talk about a NAC. This is one of my very favorite devices. The NAC stands for Network Access Control. And what NAC does is this. It ensures that only authorized devices can connect to the network. So by default, a network administrator already has the MAC addresses of authorized devices on the network. All right. Now, it registers those MAC addresses, okay? And if a device with a MAC address that is not registered tries to connect to the network, it shuts down that port. So it doesn't just prevent you from connecting to the network, it actually shuts down the port to prevent further compromise. Okay. Another interesting thing about a NAC is that for authorized hosts, it can decide to detect whether the host is truly secure before giving it network access. So, for example, it checks the patches installed on your system, are they up to date? Do you have antivirus? Do you have other security software? So once you pass all those checks, it grants you access to the network. If not, tells you to remediate, and then sometimes it's possible it can actually remediate the system for you, but most times there has to be manual intervention, remediate, and then you are given access to the network. So what NAC does is just host security, prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to the network, and also ensures that authorized devices have a good security posture before being granted access. The reason is that attacks can happen over the network, over the internet, right? And when you're compromised, you can be used as a jump server to compromise other hosts on the network. So that's why it specifies the policy that you must be robust. Security-wise, your security posture must be robust before you are granted access. So next, we are talking about disabling SSID. This is for wireless networks, for Wi-Fi. Okay. So what we can do to improve security of wireless networks is to disable SSID. SSID is like the name of the access point or the name of the network. So if you have the name of the network as ABC, all right, because someone can turn on his Wi-Fi and see available networks, he can see the name of your network, okay? So disabling SSID is just a form of security by obscurity. meaning take away that resource from the eyes of attackers. Okay, the resource is actually there, but because you have control over it, you can make them assume that the resource is not there. So they forget about testing that particular resource for vulnerabilities and attacking him. So when you disable network name and you ensure that only those that want to connect have the network name, all right? Next, we have MAC filtering, what we call MAC address filtering. Like I said earlier, MAC address is the physical address of a host. It's usually hard coded to a network adapter, a network card, all right? So it just works the way a NAC works. It just ensures that only MAC addresses that are approved, that are registered, have access to the network. No other device with a foreign MAC address is allowed access to the network. And this works very much because if there is an actual compromise on the network, you would know that is a device on the network that has access that caused this compromise. Okay. Next, we have Wi-Fi protected access. So prior to now, we have what we call WEP, all right? We have what we call WEP, wireless encryption. Okay, and it uses wireless encryption protocol. It uses a key to encrypt communications across a wireless network, but WEP has been found to be vulnerable. The key can be cracked in a matter of time. All right, so now it has been upgraded to WPA, all right, Wi-Fi protected access. You can also have WPA-PSK, pre-shared key, which adds further security to WPA. So it is much more stronger, and the keys are more complex and difficult to crack. Again, we have what is called captive portals. What captive portals does is that it can ensure that only authorized people have access to the network. So we've gone a step to allow only authorized devices, okay? But now we've moved another step to ensure that only those that are authorized with the authorized devices have access to the network, okay? Because an attacker can take hold of an authorized device and try to access the network. But there's a captive portal, you have to prove you are who you say you are, okay? Probably you're a staff, you need to put in your staff ID, your email address, and your password to gain access to the network. Okay, so captive portals can sometimes be federated. What I mean is that it can be connected to Active Directory and can sync with the staff list, the user list on Active Directory, and ensure that only users on the Active Directory can authenticate to captive portals. All right. Then again, we have VPNs. I've already explained what VPNs, but I'll go a step ahead to explain it again. A virtual private network is just a way of ensuring that authorized hosts on our external network can connect to the internal network. It just creates a tunnel between external hosts and the border device, maybe a firewall or a router, and enables external hosts to access internal resources securely without any form of compromise. So VPNs are actually good for work from home. I've used VPNs. I'll probably still use one today. I'll still use it tomorrow because I'm at different places at different times and I need to connect to internal resources from an external connection. So let's see common network attacks. We have denial of service. Denial of service is just a means of preventing a particular resource from being accessible by authorized users. Okay, you can carry out a denial of service by sending too many packets than the resource can handle, thereby denying other legitimate users from having access. Okay, now when you have different hosts externally carrying out a denial of service on a particular resource, it's called the distributed denial of service because not only one host is responsible, but so many hosts that are maybe part of a botnet. A botnet is a network of hosts that have been compromised. Probably an attacker has installed malicious software to them and he can control all those hosts from his own end all right, and can make the host to send packets to the victim server without the host even knowing, all right. So another attack type we have is sniffing. Sniffing just a way of connecting to a wireless network and then ensuring and then trying to capture data, all right. So if there's no encryption on the network, it'll be easy to sniff the network, capture credentials and other sensitive data. Here again we have what is called an evil twin. An evil twin is common to wireless networks. Okay, so if you have the name of a network ABC, a malicious hacker can create his own network and also call it ABC. And sometimes he can remove the authentication portion of it such that anybody can connect to it. And because there's no authentication, there's no password to it, it's unencrypted. And whatever data you're sending will be sent in clear text. So if you're trying to connect to that network or you've connected already, the attacker is sniffing all your data, your communication, is snooping on your communications. But meanwhile, you thought that was the original network, but that's not actually the original network. It's a fake network that was created by the attacker to try and sniff. All right. Then we have rogue AP. Rogue AP is just any other access point or any other network that is created by an attacker, also without authentication. So people are looking for internet access, they just find a free network, you just connect to it, and unknown to you are connecting to a fake network, and somebody behind the scene is stealing from you, is snooping on you. So the difference between evil twin and rogue AP is that an evil twin uses the exact name of an existing network, while a rogue AP uses a similar name. So if there's a network called ABC, an evil twin uses also a network called ABC. Okay, and if again there's a network called technical department, an evil twin uses a network called technical department. But for a rogue AP will try to create its own network, like maybe admin department. But meanwhile, there's no existing network like that. It just tries to convince users that this network is official, is authorized, meanwhile it's actually a fake network. We have Bluetooth attacks. So you should never leave your Bluetooth on, especially when there's no password, because attackers can carry out attacks like blue jacking and blue snapping. You can connect to your phone and send unauthorized data to you, and also take control of your mobile device. You also have unauthorized access, where hosts that aren't supposed to access a network gain access either by maybe brute forcing or exploiting a particular vulnerability. They are not supposed to have access to that resource, but because there is no security control to prevent them from accessing that resource, so the attacker gains unauthorized access. We also have DNS attacks. Like I said earlier, what DNS does is that it resolves host names to IP addresses, or it resolves domain names to IP addresses. All right. So an attacker can tamper with the DNS cache and change the IP address to his own IP address, so he can redirect you to a fake site when you try to access a legitimate site. Okay, this is how DNS attacks works. Thanks for listening, and I'm sure you gained a lot, and a lot is going to be talked about during the Q&A session, and I'll be waiting to see you there. We've covered how a network works. We've covered the basic terminologies in the network. We've covered the core concepts of a computer network. We've covered how computer networks work. We've also covered how to secure your network. We've also covered network attacks. All right. So just a piece of advice: if you want to learn more about network security, you need to go on YouTube. Just Google network security or networking, all right, and learn how networks work and learn how to secure a network. I've given this to you, but probably you want to do further research. You need to go online and get more resources. Thank you very much for listening and see you in the next module.